There we
Hello!
are.
Hey!
Hey, Jessie.
Hello, how have you been?
Ah, as good as I can be. How have
Absolutely.
you been?
I've been really, hanging in there like everyone else. I'm lucky, continuing to teach, which is great. But, we're all kind of experiencing our own struggles during this time for sure. So, uh, it's been a growing process. We'll put it that way.
That is for sure.
So thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A. We will kind of chat a little bit until some more people join us, but we're so excited to have you. I'm going to just introduce us really fast. So I'm Jessie. I am a coach here with the Michael Karl Studio, and this is Lizzie. Lizzie, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. I am Lizzie. I'm an actor, a artist. I make art in lots of different forms, a teacher, coach, a human being.
Yeah, so you said, so we edited together a promotional for Lizzie. It's on our feed. But we had to keep it under 1 minute. But there was something you said that I loved that you sent us in your footage. You said you were a generative artist. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I learned this distinction from I learned this distinction from one of my acting coaches, just like an interpretive artist versus a creative artist, but I'm going to say generative artist. So interpretive artist being like an actor who interprets other people's material. So doing musical theater, unless you wrote it, it's interpretive. So generative artist for me is art that I create myself that is birthed out of my own brain. So like songwriting, I've been experimenting a lot with like sound art is what I'm going to call it, writing poetry and all kinds of like visual art and crafting.
That's amazing. I love that. So I think it's amazing that you're here because you have such a unique perspective on the industry, especially being a woman in the industry, and obviously this Q&A is for everybody joining, but especially as a woman, there was something you posted on Instagram a while back. You joined the cast of West Side Story in Tokyo, Japan, which was amazing. And you had to cut all of your hair off for this role. And that's totally something I want to touch on because we have a lot of students, our college audition students especially, asking about type and how should I stick to my type and how do I make my type, this, that, and the next thing. So can you speak to that a little bit and tell us about and it doesn't even have to be with your hair experience with West Side Story, it could be anything you've noticed about type because you're such a versatile actress. But easily we can all put ourselves in these boxes that we could easily break out of, if we just changed our mindset. So can you talk to us about that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, this could be a whole hour and some change. But type is such an interesting term. And what does it really mean? What does that mean? I'm really not sure. And I think in a way it is kind of a euphemism for stereotype.
Wow.
Because otherwise, when you break it down, it's like, what does it mean? So I personally am very resistant to that idea and that as a concept, as something that we pour energy into, because it especially as you're going into college auditions when you're still, I'm still in the process of figuring out who I am, but especially at that time. So all this focus on type then distances you from figuring out who you are, which is going to make you a less interesting actor because you're trying to fit yourself into a box that you think someone else is seeing you as, but you don't actually know if that's true. So then you're just abandoning where the juicy work is of who am I and what do I want to bring to the table no matter what role I inhabit. And then you can, if maybe you are drawn to, I'm trying to think of an alternative to type.
Right.
But maybe, it's worth noting, what are you drawn to? Are you drawn to roles that are comedic? Are you drawn to roles that are like have a lot of depth and angst? Like, what are you drawn to? And lead with that. And if you are asked to inhabit a different role, how can you bring your own superpowers to that? I just think like thinking about type can be a slippery slope and can just make you, can easily get you to start to want to prove yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know if I answered your question, but
no, absolutely. I think that was beautifully put, and that's something you know, you just taught me something, because that's something I've tried to verbalize so many times to students, is like, you're 17, you have no idea, and sometimes younger, you know, you have no idea. I still don't know, you know, what I'm capable of and what I'm going to do and what I can do. And that was such a beautiful way of putting it. And I love what you said about type being a euphemism for stereotype. Yeah, I mean, that, it gave me chills just like repeating it back to you. That was beautifully put. I love that. So tell me a little bit about how, and you rock the hair. It looks so cute. I love it. Thank you. Tell me a little bit about, did that open up any doors for you in terms of like, with the box, let's throw it away?
Right. Oh my God, Jessie. Yes. I mean, I was like, I prided myself on my long hair. I was like, I love this. This is my femininity. Like, this is what makes me like hippie-ish and special. And then they were like, guess what? You have to cut it all off. I don't think I would have ever done that had I not been required to. Essentially, I had to decide between, do I want this job or do I want my hair and not the job? I was like, you know what? It's hair. It's hair. And it made me come face to face with how much I had tied up in my identity was, and my idea of what femininity is and worth as a human and as an actor. Like, will anyone cast me now? Will I be shut out of different roles because people won't, I won't be stereotypical. Like, if I went in for Mamma Mia now, it's not the stereotype of what they expect a young hippie woman who lives in Grace to be. Right. But that's not true, because none of us are stereotypes. Like, whatever. I can play any role. I can play feminine roles with this hair, but I didn't believe it. Yeah. So it was really liberating, and it's really hard not to curse, and terrifying. It's terrifying to get it cut off, but it is so liberating because it forces you to come face to face with your belief systems that are limiting you.
My goodness.
And it makes you be like, you know what? I'm going to go in for what I want to go in for. And it feels really good to like intentionally be against the grain. Like, it feels great to be in a dance call with this hair. And it just also makes you realize how hair can really tie you down, because you're constantly like, I remember college auditions, like constantly redoing it. When like, I'm generalizing, but most men or anyone else who has short hair, they don't even think about that. They get to focus on the craft. So with this, I get to just focus on the dang craft.
That's amazing. I love that. And like, I feel like now this like hair thing in my head is becoming this like symbolism for like just things in general, like life. So I can't imagine. That's such a cool process that you went through. So just to recap, oh my gosh, already 10 minutes in, we've had so many like amazing, juicy moments. But I'm Jessie. This is Lizzie, for those of you who have popped in. Please ask us all of your questions. Leave them in the comment section. We will answer them as they pop up. This is what this Q&A is for. It's a live interaction, a live chat. And I'll just keep refreshing that phrase again and again as we keep going for our new friends who join. Okay, so moving into sort of what we initially talked about when we were putting together this Q&A, you are a huge believer in keeping mindfulness at kind of the center with others of your craft, of auditioning, of performing. So set me up with that a little bit. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, well, I really think that mindfulness is being present and aware and in your own body, and in your body, not in your thoughts and fears, because like these will always exist.
Yeah.
It's like meditation 101, you know, it's like your thoughts will always be there and will flow through. But so you can like be in your body and acknowledge them, like say, hey, what's up, and let it go by. Or you can let them drive. So I think mindfulness is like being grounded in your body, present. And I really think that mindfulness and acting are like the same thing. I think great acting, like especially if you practice mindfulness in your day-to-day life, which is like literally just being aware of what are my feet touching right now? What does that feel like? Like, where am I holding tension? Just like clicking back into your body instead of we're constantly going to different tasks and like into our phone. So the more you practice mindfulness in your day-to-day life, also the better of an actor you'll be. Because then you can really look your scene partner in the eye and be present with them and then be available. But yeah, I really think that mindfulness is a huge helper for me to anchor into for auditions, performances. Yeah, because before scary things, like all the doubts and fears like swarm our minds.
Yeah.
And like, I think it's easy to just believe them and get caught up in them. But it only takes like a few extra breaths to take a step back, to get back into your body, to like let that be with you, but almost like change your perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone told me the phrase once, and I love, like anxiety and excitement, like fear and excitement are the same thing. It's the same body sensation. We just put a different label on it.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So if you notice you're terrified, you could just flip that to I'm excited, and you or you can add and I love it. Instead of we pursue the story of like I'm scared, that's a bad thing, that means I'm not ready. We're like that means. Mm-hmm. You're just experiencing an emotion and a feeling, and it's probably because you care. So you're probably scared and excited.
Mm-hmm.
And you can add and I love it, and I'm going to use it.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. I love that, adding that, you know, and I love that. I love adding that onto the end. Like I'm terrified and I love it. Like this is a good, you know, it flips the script in your head. And I feel like a big part of performing is such a mental game. And that's why I love that you're coming on here talking about this, because I don't think it's often talked about when you're approaching, especially college auditions, but really just auditions and performing in general. You know, like you hear the like picture the audience in your underwear from the time you're like 3. Like that's the advice that your aunt gives you who doesn't know anything about performing, and she's like, picture them in their underwear and you won't be nervous when you go up and sing at the holiday party, you know. And it's like that helps zero. So and that's kind of the extent that I've heard about it, you know, obviously somewhat in college, but it's still a struggle for me, for sure. And I think for a lot of students, you know, they go into their auditions and they're like, you know, we do all this work with them to prep, and they're prepared, but they're still going in and they're like, I'm super prepared and I'm still freaking out. So this is super helpful, you know, information for them and for me as a coach as well, because what do you say to them? But I love that. I love that you just put that on the end of that phrase. I'm nervous and I love it.
Yeah.
That's really empowering. Really empowering.
Right?
Yeah. Pretty incredible. Yeah.
That's so funny. Picture them in their underwear. Like, has that helped anyone? I would love to know. I'd love to take a
from. Maybe it's like a power thing of like, you have power over you shouldn't be scared of them. It doesn't work.
But that's an interesting point, right? I think that's where a lot of the fear comes in, is that we think that the person we're auditioning for is like this all-powerful being, and like we should be so lucky to be in their presence.
Wow.
Which, like, no! You are a gift. Like, they are hoping that you are exactly what they're looking for. Yeah. So, and, you know, I mean, I could talk for days, like throw in little tools, but like it's really, a lot of the time it's like, how do we shift our perception of who has the power? Because we are actually just all collaborators. Like they are nothing without you. Mm-hmm. But doesn't mean that you're more powerful than, because you need them too. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think what helps me is reminding myself that you are not auditioning for a program. You're not auditioning for a show. You're auditioning for a human.
Wow.
And something as simple as like looking them in the eyes, not feeling like you have to rush. Like no one's like gonna put a beeper and say you met your time. Like don't rush when you're in an audition. Like take your time. You deserve to be there. Remind yourself, like you deserve to be there. You are not a burden. And I think we're taught a lot of times that like director is God, I am nothing. And I just don't think that's helpful to anyone or true. You bring something to the table of value, and you are two humans, and you get to look each other in the eye and like have a little mini artistic experience.
That's beautifully said. Yeah, looking each other in the eye and having an artistic experience together. Yeah, that's amazing, because they have to, you know, and it's like our relationship with the audience, right? Like when we do book those jobs, when we do happen to be on stage in a performance setting, you're experiencing this artistic setting with the audience. Like it doesn't exist. One without the other doesn't exist.
Right.
Love that. Okay, so on the flip side then, there are times you don't book that job and you don't get to, you know, join the cast of whatever or join the program at blank university. How do you keep yourself mindful and, you know, centered as through that and not let it kind of beat down your artistic spirit? Because that is something, you know, obviously we all struggle with it.
Yeah. Well,
loaded question.
Very loaded question. Where do we start? Okay. So you're asking, what if you don't get the thing you wanted to get? Mm-hmm. Because that will happen over and over and over again.
For sure.
How do you stay mindful?
But even beyond that, I think, you know, the reason that I have struggled, and I can only speak to myself, but I know for a fact other people feel this too. If you go into the audition and you're like, I'm going to create this completely unique me experience, this artistic moment with this person, and then that moment is rejected, you're giving so much of yourself. I mean, that's the catch, you know, of being an auditioning performer, is you're giving so much of yourself. So you're like, here's me, and then when it gets rejected, that deeper than just like, oh, I wanted to play Elle Woods and I didn't get to. You know what I mean? Like it goes deeper than that. And I think whether people realize it or not, that's where the core of that hurt is coming from. So how do you dig in there and kind of pull that apart? Loaded question, but
yeah, that's a great question. Sorry, my phone is totally gonna die, so I plugged it in, so now I'm holding it. Forgive me if it's like if we go on a little
you actually look very steady considering. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, great. I would say, okay, first of all, feeling hurt is normal. So like, first of all, like don't beat yourself up for feeling sad or hurt. Like allow yourself to feel that and to grieve it, especially if you were like really put everything into it. And also remembering that like each time, like, I know we all know this, but reminding yourself that the reason you don't get it a lot of the time is like so complicated and has nothing to do with your heart or your talent, like literally zero. Because if it did, like you and I would both be on Broadway right now. You know, like it truly has nothing to do with that. And I know it's hard to remember and easy to be like, oh, I did this wrong. And if I had only done that differently, I would have gotten it. But that's just not true, because if you were what they were looking for, or you were, you know, who knows? These are all humans also with their own biases and their own ideas. Like, just because you think you're perfect for the role doesn't mean that they'll see you as perfect for the role. And it still means that you're perfect for the role, just not in their production, in their eyes. So, like, keeping in mind that, like, the people you're auditioning for have a billion things at play that have nothing to do with you. Like, a billion things. Maybe you just, you know, don't fit the hair color they were looking for, or the hair length that they were looking for. Or they have their own biases. Like, they are not perfect human beings that, like, see someone who has heart and talent, and so they get it.
Like you look
obviously
like
that's not how the world works.
you look like their ex from high school that cheated on them.
Yeah.
Like so they don't want to spend time with you. Yeah.
Right. And I think it's also like allowing yourself to grieve and then like powwowing with a friend after about it. Even like after you get out of the room, noting after the room, when you get out of the room, how you feel that went. Like, do you feel that you brought your best? Do you feel like, were you in your body? Like, can you remember what happened? Did you have fun? Like, whatever's important that you tick off when you're in the room. Like, so maybe it's figuring out what is important for me when I go in the room. It's important that I have fun. It's important that I feel in the moment. It's important that I feel physically connected. If those are things, then you make sure you flag them. So before you go in, those are my intentions. And then when you walk out, did I do that?
Yeah.
If no, great, information. Why not? What could I have done to set myself up better? If you did, then great. And you don't get it, it doesn't matter because you did what you said you were going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like taking some power back and like with your intention in the audition and trusting that it wasn't meant for you. And if you think it was, like, keep going. Like, don't take no and leave. Like, the amount of times I've been like, I want to be seen for your production. And they're like, oh, sorry, we're not seeing Nanek. No, I want to be seen for your production because I ought to be in the room for this. And you can, you know, I mean, this is not really college auditions.
Well, yeah.
So maybe I shouldn't go down that road.
No, go down that road. I mean, this is supposed to be accessible for anybody. It's rooted in college auditions, but I think these are important. These people are going to graduate college eventually, so they need to
I guess it's like, don't always take, well, first of all, not getting something doesn't mean like you are rejected. That's also a reframe. It's just like, they didn't reject you. They just went in a different direction because a specific reason, but you have not been rejected. And for all you know, and it's so true, people are keeping you in mind for other projects and for other things, and you're constantly making connections. So auditions aren't just about booking the job. It's about getting in your reps. It's about making human connections. It's about forming relationships. It's about getting clearer on how you want to show up in the room. So auditions are a billion things, and booking the job is like one of the 100.
Yeah, I love that. And it reminds me of, you know, kind of a headspace that I had to shift into when I went to New York for a little bit after graduation. You know, the first dance call I went into, I was like, this is a New York dance call and I need to make a good impression and I need to this and I need to that. And like, I just got so in my head about it. It was for a cruise line. Like they audition all over the place, not just in New York. But of course I'm thinking, this is New York, you know? And so I feel like you can feel the same way with college auditions, right? Because you're like, this is college auditions. And it wasn't until I made the shift of like, I get to learn new choreography for free. Like, I get to learn choreography from a professional choreographer for free. A lot of people pay so much money to have master classes with this person or to take dance class from this person, and I get a free session with them. What is this? This is great. So it kind of was, it's similar to what we were talking about earlier of like, I'm terrified and I love it. Like taking advantage of the opportunity and what it teaches you rather than going in thinking, you know, I have to impress this person. Also, they can like smell the desperation. And I didn't understand that until I watched college auditions like at Elon when we would like help with college auditions and things. Like there were people that it was like, and of course I wasn't like judging them. Like I can smell the desperation. Of course you're desperate. It's college auditions. But the people who were able to just enjoy the experience had a much more successful time in the room. And I assume a much better experience personally than people who were in there like, you know, fixing their hair and like just so like self-conscious because they were like, this means so much. It does, but it does. Yeah. You know, and I think that's a hard balance, but I loved everything you said about that. So in terms of mindfulness, bringing it back to mindfulness in the audition room.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through your process? Like you, Lizzie Markson, when you walk into the room, and you don't have to give away like all your secrets, but when you come in, you know, like what do you know, you have each step, you have the pianist, you have the people, you have this, you have the song, then you have potentially a redirect or have another song. Just talk us through like a day in the room with Liz.
Great. Love it. Love it. Before I go into that, I just want to double click on one thing you said because it's so good.
Yeah.
I think that reframe of I get to do this is gold. And I just love it because it reminds you that it's a privilege and how fun. Like I get to do this.
Yes.
I just love that so much.
Yeah. It's so important. It takes a while to sink in. It's
yeah.
But.
And I think that like true of everything we're talking about is like none of it is an immediate switch. It's like an ongoing practice. And eventually you might realize like, whoa, I don't feel desperate in auditions anymore.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen overnight. But if you keep practicing, you will get to that point.
Absolutely.
All right, your question. Okay. I'm like, it's been long time because
or like if you were gonna walk into an audition room today, how would you get yourself ready? How would you talk yourself up?
Love that. Okay. I am big on rituals and like crafting a pre-audition ritual, a pre-show ritual to like, I don't know, I was just reading some articles on like how rituals, I mean, I'm obsessed with rituals and how they remind you of who you are. They give you a touchstone of familiarity, especially if you're going like college auditions and like spreading yourself out. If you have a consistent ritual that will like ground you each time, that can be your thing that's the same, even as everything else is a whirlwind and different. Yeah. So I always do something physical before an audition because we store so much tension in our bodies. So I always do something physical. I warm up my voice, like literally since I started doing musical theater, I will never do an audition or performance without fully warming up my voice. Ever. So I'll warm up my voice. I will do like, you know, the moments leading up to the audition, the like in the holding room, which I also hate that word because it's like gives off the connotation of like we're cattle or something, a holding room.
Yeah.
So the room that I happen to be sitting in, I don't know what the reframe will be.
Whoa. Yeah. I mean, like, sorry to interrupt your flow of what you're saying, but like that just blew my mind. I never knew what felt so kind of degrading, a little dehumanizing about that holding room. It makes you feel like a pen of cattle. It really does. Yes.
Yeah. Holding room. Like what? We got to figure out what the new word is.
Yeah. There's something in there we need to reframe.
Right. If anyone has an idea.
Space.
Oh, yes.
Maybe.
Yes. The preparation space. When I'm in the preparation space,
there you go.
I love that. I love that because that gives it such a different atmosphere. There will always be people handle their stress different ways. So there will always be people like chatting or like distracting themselves. And some people that helps them. Some people it's a subtle form of self-sabotage, even if they're not aware. So I'll always like really mindfully stay in my headspace, whether a lot of times for me that means listening to music. Otherwise, I can't help but try to listen to conversations happening. Like I just can't help it. So I can't give myself that option. I'll listen to calming music. For me, that's the Waylon Jennings. I love the Waylon Jennings. They just like get me. The song You Are Here. If you need like help with some mindfulness, just lay on your bed and listen to You Are Here by the Waylon Jennings. So I'll listen to that. I'll make sure I'm super prepared with my song. Like I feel really good about it. I know what I'm singing. I have last minute changed my song, but I really try not to do that.
Yeah.
And I will take a lot of deep breaths. I'll get myself in like a calm headspace a very present headspace. I'll like do some body scans to make sure I'm like really inhabiting my body. I'm not like closing off physically.
Yeah.
Because, you know, our mind sends signals to our body and our body sends signals to our mind. So even if you don't feel powerful, do power pose, stand tall, you'll probably convince yourself that you feel powerful. So I usually do a power pose, honestly, before an audition.
Did you get that from Dan Calloway?
I don't know, maybe.
I got that from Dan Calloway. Our voice teacher from school, beautiful man, wonderful person. But he said that doing a power pose, like hands on your hips, anything, literally, like bringing the hands out to the side.
I do like a star power pose. So good.
Yes, literally anything like that. It boosts your testosterone levels and makes you feel confident and strong and all those things. So love that. Yes. And I struggle still not feeling self-conscious doing it in front of all those people in the preparation space. But yeah.
But like, yeah. And if you need to go to the bathroom, like sometimes I'll go into a bathroom stall to like feel some privacy.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Because like sometimes if you can't fight the self-consciousness, like just make it easier for yourself. Like just go find the private space. Like you don't have to be the person that feels so comfy, like warming up in front of everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
And then yeah, just in terms of the audition room, I make sure to take my time walking in. I look everyone in the eye and I say like, hi, how are you? Like if they don't introduce me, I'll say, hey guys, I'm Lizzie. Or not guys, hey folks, I'm Lizzie. Yeah, and I take my time, like happy to be there, you know, like if you need mantras are super helpful before you go in. If you're like, I am here to have fun, or like my goal is to move one person emotionally. Like that would be amazing. Or like, I'm going to make sure, like I usually give myself an intention. When they talk to me, I'm going to focus on my breath. Like one intention like that to ground yourself, to come home to, because a lot of times we know when you walk in the room, everything you prepared kind of goes out the door. Yes. So if you give yourself one thing, it can be really helpful. And for me, sometimes that's actually within the song itself. Like whether that's like, and this is a whole nother topic, but I'll be like, you know, I'm going to start the song against the back wall. And at some point, I'm going to make sure hopefully you've done all your prep, but like sometimes you need a little oomph. Like I'm going to make sure that I'm going to like really hit emotional peaks and valleys. Like that's the goal in the song itself. Yeah, give myself to the accompanist. Say like, you guys ready for me? When they're ready, then I'll walk into the sacred performance space. And this is recently that I've, you know, picked up through my beloved acting studio, but I'm unless there's like an X on the floor and they want you to be front and center, fine. But I use the space and that frees me a lot. And that helps me, honestly, that feels like mindfulness too. Like I really use the space I'm in instead of pretending it's not there. It's there. You're in the space. If there's a wall right behind you when you want to use it. And again, like physicality in mind, you'll probably, even if you feel super scattered, if you put your hand on the wall and you start your song like that, you'll convince yourself that you're a human being. When a lot of times we'll forget, but your body will be like, oh, that feels human. And probably the emotions of the song will be more available to you.
Oh my gosh, Lizzie, that was amazing advice. That was great. That is not something that I hear talked about often at all. I mean, that's great. I mean, you could do that in college auditions.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Why not? You know?
Yes. Or like something that's also really grounding for me, and forgive me if we need a reroute and you want to get me back on topic.
No, you're amazing. Keep going.
Okay. Is like, yeah, along with that, if there's not a wall and they want you to stand on the X, then, whatever. Okay, if they want you to stand on the X, you can still get creative. You can still, like, picking a character home-based shape is really helpful for me, too. Like, what is this? Because we all have a tendency of how we hold ourselves. As Jessie, you have a tendency. As Lizzie, I have a tendency. So what, if I'm singing What Bacon Can Do from Waitress, what's Jenna's home-based shape? And even with that, like, could even be just, like, starting on an angle. I just think little physical things, or, like, starting with, like, my you know, playing with my earring. Just little things like that really trick your brain that you're human. I mean, not trick your brain that you're human. I think standing front and center in a neutral position somehow tricks your brain that you're not human.
It does. Absolutely.
It's not human.
It's reminding me of what we talked about with the holding room. Like, you just...
Right.
It's dehumanizing in a big way because, and it's not like they intend this, like there's no better way to run auditions really than having you come in the room and stand in front of them, right? But, you know, having that freedom when you're not on the X, I think is a way that they can help us out as artists. But if you have the X, I love that because I think just having to stand there and be like, here's my body, here I am, here is just me, flat plane, is very like two-dimensional, and it strips you of the things that make you three-dimensional and beautiful and unique and dynamic.
Right. And like, isn't acting all about humanity? Like, we remind people of their humanity. That's literally what it's about.
Yeah.
So stereotyping, holding rooms, front and center flat, those are all dehumanizing things. So like, let's reclaim it.
Yeah.
And like, even just now, I'm standing like with my hand on my hip and like leaning into a hip. Like, I never stand like this and deliver something ever.
Yeah.
So.
My goodness. Okay, so just to check back in with all of our listeners, this is a Q&A, so if you have any questions that pop up about anything we're talking about, it could actually be completely unrelated. It doesn't matter. Anything you want to ask Lizzie, we will get it answered. So Michael Karl jumped in. He said, I absolutely love this. I do too. This has been amazing. For those of you who joined, I'm Jessie. I'm a coach here with Michael Karl Studio. This is Lizzie Markson, our beautiful guest artist and mindfulness extraordinaire. I mean, just there's so many golden tips in here already. Yeah. Okay. So talk me through your process. You finished the song. I think something I've always struggled with, and I know a lot of people do too. I remember, I'm gonna story real quick. When I was auditioning for a college, I finished a song and it was dead silent in the room. They just like didn't respond. Come to find out, it was because they really enjoyed it and they were just kind of like invested, you know, which great, like not, you know, it's not a pat on the back to me, but you know, you never know what they're thinking. So in that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, they hated it so much that it's like crickets. So how do you deal with that moment after coming out of the performance? You just laid everything out, you showed them your humanity. Then what? Yeah.
Jessie, what I'd give to see you perform live right now.
Oh,
okay.
I was literally just thinking that. I was like, I miss the days when we could all just see each other perform. And I mean, guys, Lizzie, friends, Lizzie was just such a light in college, and I always just looked up to her. I did a production with her. Would you remember Century of a Songbook?
Oh, yeah.
The one time that I got to work very closely with Lizzie, she was my choreographer. Just like the freedom I felt in the room working with her, just, I mean, seriously. And I never thanked you for that, but thank you. That was a gift, and it stayed with me. It really did. So yeah, anyway, we had a love fest real quick. Ask us your questions. Lizzie's about to talk us through finishing a song.
All right. Well, yeah, I'd say get comfy with the silence. And don't end it first.
Oh, get comfy.
I know, it's hard.
Yeah.
I think in general, get comfy with the silence.
Yeah.
And even in a song, like get comfy in the middle of the song with like stillness. Comfy with the silence. And like you said, it doesn't mean, it could mean an array of things. It could mean nothing. But don't end it before they end it. So don't, a lot of times they're trying to decide what they want to do next with you. Or they're trying to decide, they're processing. So let them process. Like, it's okay. They're not just, like, you're not going to be on there forever. It's probably going to be a few seconds. It might feel like an eternity. But just breathe. And don't end it. Ending it means usually thank you, right? That's usually how they end. Thank you. So don't end it. Don't say thank you, because then what if they wanted to ask you for another song? You just decided that it was over, but maybe it wasn't over. Maybe they're going to play with you a little bit. So
Yeah.
I would say get comfortable with the silence. If you need to vocalize or say something, like you again, be a human. Like you can be like, "Whoa, that was fun" afterward, or like, "Thanks" to the accompanist.
Oh,
Like
I
you
like
killed,
that.
or like you killed it to the accompanist.
Wow, I love that. Also, because the accompanist doesn't get enough credit in the audition room, they are the real MVPs.
True.
They're the engine that keeps everything running. You know what I mean? Like they're the music underneath everything we do. We wouldn't have anything if we didn't have them. So I love that. I love acknowledging the accompanist and not the people behind the table. Because also, like, going back to something you were saying, it just made me think of this. The accompanist is the person that maybe you should be thanking because you're directly collaborating with them in that moment. The people behind the table are serving audience members who benefit from you giving them your talent. So how interesting is it that our impulse is to say thank you to the people who are supposedly benefiting from our time and from us being
Right. Because what are you saying? Are you subliminally saying, like, are you really saying, thank you so much for letting me be here and taking 2 minutes of your time? Because no, like you said,
wow.
you did them a favor. So if they say thank you, you could experiment with saying you're welcome.
Wow.
Instead of just thank you back. You're welcome.
Or, you know, like, you're so welcome. I had a great time being here today.
Yeah, right. You're welcome. That was so much fun.
Wow. That's amazing. You know, it's funny because, you know, I hop on these Q&As and I'm like, this is going to be so informational for my college audition kids and all of the performers that are tuning in. And then I'm like
yeah, taking notes.
Yeah, taking mental notes. Yeah, that's incredible. And I love that. You're welcome. Thank you for having me today. Like, I had so much fun. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I have some quick questions because we're kind of nearing the end, which is sad because I had so much fun today. So quick questions for you, and that doesn't mean you have to just like throw out an answer. It's not like the Vogue, you know, 70 question thing. Favorite part of performing?
Don't do that to me right now. Favorite part of performing? The electric communal energy in a live performance when the audience and the people, everyone on stage, like we're all together and there's this like electricity. That.
Yeah, it's something that we can't touch or recreate. Like, love that Hamilton is available for people to see now. I love that we have all these musicals that people are experimenting with all of these live musicals and stuff. That's so cool. Yeah, nothing will ever replace that feeling. I love that. Okay, first role you ever played?
Oh my God. I think it was a frog in Honk.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
definitely.
So cute.
Warts and
How
all.
old were you? Do you remember?
I want to say like 8, 7, 8.
So
8. Go with 8.
yeah. First role that you ever found your love of performing. It's that. But like truly found it and said, this is what I'm doing the rest of my life.
You know what? I said that actually watching someone else perform is when I said that. Which I think is really interesting to unpack because along with your first answer, my favorite part is the catharsis that it offers. Yes, as a performer, but yes, definitely as a performer, but more so the audience, like this catharsis that people don't allow themselves to have unless they're watching a story. So I think it was actually watching another musical number. I was in high school. So it wasn't until like 10th grade that I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And I was watching an ensemble musical number. Like they're all like singing. I don't remember what it was. And I was just crying. I was like, I have to do this. I could give this feeling to someone else. Literally, what could be better? I don't know.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. I literally would have never thought about that concept until you just said it, but I've definitely experienced the same thing of like, it takes seeing live theater to be like, this is why, you know, it's stepping out and watching. Also, like, just a side note for any of the young performers joining or who will watch this back later, there is no better way to educate yourself than to watch other people. And I think a lot of people think that, you know, you want the direct feedback about what you're doing, but watching other people, I mean, Lizzie on her website has these incredible videos of her like dancing on rooftops and like creating new versions of like Frozen songs in a space that's uniquely hers. Like, guys, they're friends, they're amazing. Yeah, I think that's so true. So I experience that when I watch you. I experience that when I watch, you know, like recently I saw, you know, but a year ago I saw Fergie and Hamilton, and like, you know, just seeing, especially people you know, I think that's really cool. But people you connect with, it doesn't even have to be people you know. I think that's a huge learning experience as an artist. Most important role you've played?
I'm gonna have to go. Important to the world or to my journey?
Both. You can give me both.
Okay. Oh, crap. This is really hard. Okay. Role specifically, outside of the experience of what the show gave me, because those are two different answers. So role specifically, oh, this is so hard. I think I'm going to go with Natalie next to Normal. How do you want?
Oh, gosh. It was so good. Yeah.
Or Sophie and Mamma Mia.
Is this, okay, wait, so is this role for you personally or role for role?
Okay, just for different reasons. I probably ultimately, okay, for the world, probably Natalie. Oh my God, this is hard. This is the hardest question you've asked me this whole time. I think I'm going to go with Sophie, actually, because that experience gave me so much. And it's been so important and pivotal in how I think of myself, what theater pieces I think are important. And no one can tell me that Mamma Mia is not important, because it gave people joy that I think is like outrageous and unparalleled and is of value.
You know, I think so often people discredit escapism and discredit these musicals that are meant to just warm you. But like, that's what we do when we listen to our favorite music. That's what we do when we rewatch The Notebook for the 80th time, because it makes us feel something nice or cathartic. Like, I never understood why people were like, if it's not cutting edge and it's not deep, and well, deep doesn't even apply, because deep could mean something different for every person. But if it's not, you know, cutting edge and edgy and pushing the envelope and politically rooted and like all these things, like, then it's not worth doing. I could not disagree more. I mean, like, I saw SpongeBob the musical at a time in my life when I actually just really needed that. I don't know what that is, but it just felt so good, you know?
Yes. Right. So, I mean, yes, I think we also always need to like push the envelope, and because like we need to push the status quo, because the status quo is harmful and rooted in white supremacy. But I think I think there is importance and value in escapism. I think it's like catharsis and joy. There's like joyous catharsis is just as important as like angsty catharsis.
Yeah. Well, you know, not that I want to like go down this rabbit hole, because we can talk about this. This is another thing. But, you know, there's no reason that escapism couldn't be done in a forward way. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly.
Like, there's no reason that you couldn't have an all-black cast of women. Like, why not? Like,
right. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like, it's cool. It's finding that like balance. But I love that you said, Sophie, change your perspective of what kind of art is important. Because I think a lot of people be like, an ABBA musical. Okay. Like, what is it doing? It's giving people joy. That's so important.
Yep.
So important. It's hard to find that sometimes.
Right.
Okay. Is that covering your answer for important roles?
Yeah, I feel settled with that.
Okay, good. Dream role. Something you haven't played yet, something you would love to bring your spirit to.
Anna and Frozen.
Oh. I thought you were gonna say that too, because you had so much joy in the video of you singing that song, singing for the first time in forever. I can tell you resonate with it. Why?
It's funny, because I think at different times my answer would be different. Like if you asked me a year ago, I'd be like Jenna and Waitress, which I still feel that way. But right now, I think especially in this time, I'm like, let me do something that is joyous and let me bring other people joy. Like that is what my soul is hungry for, and what I think a lot of people are hungry for and needing, like with art, because there's so much heaviness.
Yeah.
So I think with art, we need, like, personally right now, reminders of joy. And I just think I don't just love inhabiting her. I love inhabiting her point of view and her like pureness and her innocence and how she like is bright-eyed and such a lover. It just feels really good because I think I can be angsty, but I have some on it in me, so it feels really good to lean into that and like tell that perspective and story. And it's just, I think also because I just did Anybody's, and that was like a lot of angst on my soul.
Sure.
So I'm like, I just want to like play Anna and sing for the first time in forever.
Yeah. Okay. I have another question off of what you just touched on with experiencing kind of some angst through a role. Remind me, because it's a question I really want to ask you. There's 3 more on these quick questions. So most important thing you learned in college. It doesn't have to be like the most important thing, but just something that comes to mind now, especially for young artists.
Most important thing I learned in college.
For those of you who don't know, Lizzie and I know each other from both going to Elon University. We were both musical theater majors. Yeah, it was a good time, but a lot of interesting things learned for sure.
Most important thing learned. Okay, I take it back. This is the hardest question you've asked.
They're getting harder. Question.
Like, find your people.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I spent a lot of time trying to fit into different circles. And, but I found, like, one of my best friends ever, our mutual friend, Grant Paler.
Oh,
and
gosh.
he's been a rock in my life since. So that, yeah.
I love that. I love that. And it takes the pressure off to make college this thing of like, if you don't learn it now, you'll never learn it, which is not true. Could talk about that for another hour. But, okay, favorite class that you took in college?
Oh, my God. I think I might have to go with Fosse.
Oh, gosh. I loved that class. That class was so good.
It was so fun. It was so fun. So fun. So good. Lynn is everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Fosse, I mean, yeah. Yeah. I'd say non-theater class, religion and rock and roll.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But theater, probably Fosse. I mean, like, I keep going, in my brain, I keep going back to also Meisner with Richard Gang, which I don't think had him.
No.
But just because I learned so much there, but that's also another rabbit hole that
Sure.
we don't
No, good answers. Good answers. Yeah. And I love it. It makes so much sense for you. But I also, I love that you aren't like, saying something like all of the voice lessons, which I love my voice lessons. Like our teacher was like different reasons. Love
Yes. Also find your people, Dan Calloway.
Yes, Dan Calloway. But I also love that you didn't say something like all of the voice training that grew my voice into a dynamic. I love that they were just things that brought you joy. Like Fosse brought you so much joy, and I think created so much of what I see of your content you're putting out. Like there's elements of what I remember watching you do in the Fosse showcase in your content. It's like the same spark, if that makes sense.
I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. It's really cool. So anyway, I love that. Okay. So, second to last question. No, this is the last question.
No!
I know. And then I have one more that I want to touch on real quick, having to do with studies. Advice for staying active as an artist while you're in the quarantine of your home.
As an artist.
As a human. Just as a staying active in what you love.
And what you love. Oh.
I mean, specifically for artists, because this is who's...
Yeah. I was like, there's a lot of directions I could go with this because like, as always, almost with every answer, I want to preface it with like, give yourself grace and compassion. Yeah. Like, if you're not the most creative you've ever been in your life, it's okay. In fact, it's like maybe more than okay, because your energy is going towards other things that matter. And you're processing a lot. But if you feel that you have the energy and the bandwidth, I would say do it in the beginning of the day.
Oh, that's cool.
Do it in the beginning of the day when you have a lot of energy. Okay. And so you don't have to like question it. Sometimes I think the hardest part is just starting. Yeah. So just saying, okay, at 11 a.m. every day, I'm going to warm up, and then I'm going to play with one of my songs, or I'm going to color. Do it in the beginning of the day so you don't question it. You don't decide, like, am I in the mood? Like, just do it. It doesn't matter if you're in the mood or not. Sit down. Once you start, you'll probably be in the mood. If not, you'll feel proud of yourself. But I find that when I put things off, I'm like, oh, am I going to do it or not? Like, do I want to? Should I? Should I give myself a break? And it's like this whole drama. Do it in the beginning of the day. And just start. Put a timer on your phone. Do it in the beginning of the day and put a timer on your phone. Give yourself constraints. I'm only going to work on this music for an hour.
Yeah.
Then I'm done.
Yeah. Something that my boyfriend and I talk about a lot, he's a writer and a director, but he, is constantly talking about, like, I need to write today. I just need to do it. And we both get in that place of like, I need to work on my voice today. I need to film that self-tape. I just need to do it. And then it gets to like 5 o'clock and we're hangry and haven't made dinner, and then we're just like, it just slips away, and then you go to bed and you're like, I didn't do it. Like, and then you feel terrible, you know what I mean? So right. I love that you're talking about doing it early in the day, and that's not something I ever defined for myself. I think I always like, if I don't schedule it, it's not going to happen. But early in the day, have that energy. And I like to think about bandwidth. I never thought about our energy as in like, like a bandwidth. That's a really good phrasing for that. Okay, so last thing I want to ask you, you said that anybody's took just a lot. It was heavy. Yeah. Mindfulness, bringing yourself back, grounding yourself after, because, we all have those performances or auditions where we're just like, that left me, I gave, and now I feel drained. Yeah. What do you do? Yeah, just like, how do you talk yourself through recovery of that? Refilling your pot. Yeah. I think it's just that, asking yourself, what can I do to refill my pot? And you will know what the answer is. Like, you'll know what you need, but you have to ask the question to know what you need. So if you never ask the question, you probably just stay in that low vibe place. Yeah, I think it's like, again, for me, music is really helpful in shifting my mood. So listening to music that will shift my mood. Like, during West Side Story, it was like hanging out with friends, or it meant like taking a bath with relaxing music, like nourishing your soul. Yeah. Like, you'll know. Like, you'll know what you need. So do that thing. Ask yourself, and then do what the answer is. Amazing. Well, Instagram is going to kick us off in a minute and 25 seconds. So, so this was so incredible. I learned an extreme amount. And so, thank you as your student today. Thank you for answering all these questions. I know a lot of them were challenging, but they were such a good window into like how we can relate as artists and stay mindful. Find Lizzie on Instagram. She's always putting out incredible content. Obviously follow Michael Karl's studio, and keep working, keep growing. Lizzie, thank you so much for being here with us today. This was amazing. Thank you, Jessie. Your questions were gold, and it is a delight to share this interweb space with you. Yes, it was amazing. Okay, Instagram's yelling at me, so we're going to go, but thanks for tuning in, you guys, and thank you, Lizzie. Thank you, everyone.